to record it. And I'm going to try and now put it live. So hold on. Broadcast, go live. Oh, have I changed? Oops. Okay, live streamed.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Devi's Voice. Today we have Beta Lisboa here with us, and some of you might know her already. Welcome, Beta. Thank you so much for joining us from Bali this morning.
Thank you for having me here on Devi's. Thank you, Monali, so much for having me, and spend that time together.
And so I'll just introduce a little bit of what I know, and Beta, of course, you're more than welcome to add. Beta is a really experienced yoga teacher, the founder of dynamic spiral yin fascial yoga. She's also invested a lot in trauma healing and helping women in uncovering all of their blockages and traumas. And she's also gone through a really unique personal journey with early menopause and now coming out into a whole different phase of her creative expression and career and business, now getting into clothing design. And this beautiful Devi is from Brazil and has lived in many different places and has taught thousands of students. So we're so happy to have you here today, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation about your next iteration.
Thank you. So good to have also an opportunity to share the powerful journey that I have been going through, to share with all the other Devis, and it may that talking and that sharing serve many of them to get inspired, and also don't lose faith in the process, right? Because sometimes we think, oh, we are going through stuff and we are going through so much change, and the change, they not always they are easy, and they are not always they are easy, but they are part of what is to be alive, and that creates a lot of growth and creates a lot of power and strength. And I say, and what it showed me to arrive here where I am, and I know I'm just halfway through the path, is that I didn't lose faith, because I really looked to get inspired by the ones who walked before me, right? And that gives us support, because we know they made it. They made, regardless of the challenges and the life challenge, right? Yeah.
Can you describe more about who some of these role models have been, and specifically about this path you're on? What activities?
Yeah, just when you talked about, when you asked, the first image I had in my mind was my grandmother and my mother, you know. It's they made it. My grandmother passed, she left this body, this life, and at the age of 92, right? And she gave birth to 13 kids.
Wow.
Yeah. And she had 23 grandkids, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. Like, I'm Brazilian and I come from very big family, and in those times, women used to have a lot of kids and, like, full. So her story and her life and the challenge she went through, and still see her the age she was with so much grace and so much wisdom. And yeah, she was an inspiration for me to keep the path, to keep on the path and the healing. She was a shaman. I remember.
Wow.
Yeah. Smudging the house, like since
Uh-huh.
we were very little, we had like full smoke and smudging the whole. We lived in a very, very big house, and like every Sunday we would have smudges, every lot of celebration, holidays and holidays, right?
Wow.
And yeah, I remember being like 4 years old and getting those rappers on my nose, you know. Yeah, yeah, and be sneezing and she really loved laughing about it, and it's like, yeah, with grace, but of course, a woman in that time who had 13 kids, and it's had to face a lot of challenge, right?
Uh-huh.
Had to face a lot of challenge. And then of course my teachers, my mentors, they walked before me, and I see the grace and never give up, because you can arrive there being inspiration for the younger women, the younger generation, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely doing that with having so many students in many different countries. And so one question I have is, how have you gotten the confidence to put yourself out there, um, have such a beautiful online presence? And of course,
Mm.
the other thing is marketing yourself and showing who you are.
Do you mean as a teacher and as a, like, in my career, in my yoga career and my healing
Yeah,
and
because
therapies?
that's like, yeah, because to be honest, that's like also a very big part of, in addition to the yoga, to have all of these skills to really
Mm,
stand as your boss, as an entrepreneur.
mm. It was a very beautiful, powerful time of my life. It just happened. Um, what is meant to happen, I believe it happens. Yeah. And I I always been the yoga. I've been into the yoga path since the age of 18.
Mm.
I started this practicing yoga, and 2 years later, I was already helping my teacher teaching.
Ah,
So that's 30 years ago. Yeah. So I came from very old school yogis and yoginis, where when I first started, we didn't even teachers training. We didn't have teachers
ah,
training yet in Brazil, right? Even the US was starting the whole teachers training situation. So we really would just connect to the teacher, learn from the teacher, from the guru,
yeah.
and slowly, when it was time to share, we would come and share our gifts with our family, share our gifts with our friends, and then we start sharing in a bigger scale, right? So I come
Uh-huh.
from the process, which is very beautiful, and it's quite shocking to me to see how the change, the shift happened so fast, right? About it
Wow.
in social media and internet and computers and all this virtual world appeared. It's a very different relationship we have in between teachers, guru, respecting timing, embodiment, what we really embody to be able to pass on,
Uh-huh.
right? It's a big shift, and we inside that there is a lot of beauty, there is a lot of power, there is a lot of empowerment, but it also there is a lot of lack of integrity,
Uh-huh.
if I can say
Yeah.
that.
Uh-huh.
Yes. And answering your question, um, 10 years ago, I was living in Bali because I lived in India for almost 10 years on my
Okay.
as a spiritual seeker. I was always working to support myself and to share my therapies, my body work, and to share my gifts. But I was also immersed in silent retreats and ashrams and going around and really, yeah, immersed in a
Yeah.
spiritual path. So then I moved to Bali, and moving to Bali, I started taking the yoga and therapies and healing as more and business oriented. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So I started the bigger trainings, bigger teachers trainings, and that's almost 12, 13 years ago. And I started traveling. So the world called me. One day I was sitting meditation in Bali, and the spirit talked on my ear, said, "You gotta go." So I left the house here in Bali, rent out, sublet the house, and start traveling around the world. So teaching, I was teaching in every single country in Europe. And
Wow.
yeah, until almost 8 years ago, I met my husband. So we started traveling, teaching together, which was a big support. Was really, really, really good to have someone 24/7 next to me to give that support, because the travels was so amazing. uh, I would not have done different. If it was today, I would have done everything again.
Uh-huh.
But it was intense. It was intense to finish a training today, tomorrow jump in a flight and go to the next country.
Wow.
And just like sometimes one time I count, I was like, oh my God, 5 countries in a month teaching.
Wow.
Yeah. It was like, it just rose, and it became almost, if I can say, I'm a very honest person, I don't have um yeah, I just like to express and talk from the very deep truth of my heart. So it was intense, and it came to the point that I got into burnout.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I was teaching and holding space for trauma healing. I was going through holding space for large groups of people, traveling
Wow.
so much, not having a home, not having a grounding place to come back, leaving hotels, eating in restaurants, like all the time.
Aha.
Yeah, I felt like after 7 years, I was, I could not keep on doing anymore. So we stopped in Brazil. That's
Uh-huh.
3 years ago, when before the pandemic, the year before the pandemic, we bought a land in the very countryside in Brazil, like totally countryside, nothing but nature. And I spent almost 1 year there with my partner, right?
Wow.
Recovering, grounding my kidneys, grounding my adrenals, really like nourishing for nature, eating a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like just nourishing, because that was very clear I was going through a burnout, right?
Aha.
Yeah. And that I felt was the speed of keeping up not only with the travels, but keeping up with the marketing, with the social media situation. So I feel if we can find a balance in between having joy and pleasure and sharing content with people,
Mm-hmm.
feeding our audience, feeding our followers, feeding our people who are there for us, who wants to learn for us. But if we can find a balance in the social media in between nourishment and what I can do from joy, out of grace,
Aha.
and that is healthy.
Aha.
But what I feel is happening to many of the other sisters and other people in the world, and happened to me, it came to the point that my Instagram to make another post, another video, I could feel my nervous system completely. I was completely shaky.
Yeah.
It was not coming from the space of joy anymore, but it was obligation. Yeah. About having to do one more post to keep up the level of keeping the market going, keeping the... So I want to share this because it's not always what it seems like to be. And it's not always that easy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's incredible to hear all of this because I really respect that you have so much deep, solid training and really have studied and all deep commitment to the spiritual path. And then getting out into the marketplace is really putting all of that teaching into practice. That's really your testing ground, your laboratory of life to and so to do all of this incredible training and teaching so many people, yeah, only with so much depth could you have done this. So amazing. And
you.
also very understandable that, yeah, it's a big test of endurance. And after you've been there and done that, that it makes sense to take a period of nourishing yourself.
Yeah.
Evaluating.
Yes, exactly. I feel like when I think I was wise enough and I was guided enough to know that I needed to step back and find my nervous system in balance again. And then when I started reconnecting and offer my services and offer my service, I was coming from a very different space. And that was very clear, that was very clear. There was joy there again, and it was different. It was without pressure. I think it's the pressure that cuts the joy many times. And where is there is a fine line, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not the only one. I talk to my friends who needs to have a big social media online presence, and they feel pressure as well many times. And how can we juggle, right? We're juggling here, like between, do it, offer it, keep our presence, but also find joy.
Yeah.
With grace, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that burnout also has a lot to do with my menopause, because of course, if I was stopping bleeding, entering my inner autumn, entering a completely new, different phase, with already adrenals my adrenals was not that strong, was depleted. So the adrenals hold the chi, the jing, and the kidneys. It's our powerhouse where we are going to support that process of the hormonal change and the estrogen, progesterone, and all the hormones. They go crazy and they go all over the place. So if the adrenals and the kidneys, they are strong, and we can thrive better that process. But when they are already weak and depleted, that's one of the reasons a lot of women, they are getting into early menopause and they are suffering a lot nowadays, because we are already coming from a burnout state, right? From a lot of adrenal fatigue and burnout. So we don't have that jing that to support the menopause process.
Absolutely.
To strong.
And in your observation, are you seeing more women having earlier menopause these days than in your mother's generation or in other countries?
Completely. It became even normal in the statistics that 40 to 52 to 52 is considered normal now. for menopause. Yeah. And that comes from lifestyle, a full programming in
busy work life, and the stress of like a kind of masculine work environment that so many people in the West work in.
Exactly. The whole new program that we have. So yeah, the body stops. The body stops because it's like, what is the point here? And a lot of us, many of us, we didn't have kids, and the choices of not having or not being able to have, right? And yeah, it's a lot. A relationship with our own blood, relationship with our cycles, which I'm so happy. I'm really happy to see that it is changing, and there is so many women work. It's very different now. I wish in my youthness there was so much information out there as it is now about our blood, about the sacredness of our cycles, and right. And yes, it's changing, and it's really empowering right now. We see both, right? We see that there is many more women in early menopause stop the bleeding much earlier, but at the same time, there is much more consciousness, awareness into the blood and menstruation. The whole sacred, yeah, yeah.
Hold on, if I'm just wondering, let me just pause this for 1 second. Okay, well, I hope that's what's showing on Facebook. All right, I apologize. I apologize, I made a mistake over here. Yeah. Oops, first time in doing this.
Maybe just ping now, right?
Let me just refresh this. Oh, okay, there you are, I think.
Maybe just ping. I think there is a ping here on me.
There's a what?
Did you ping?
Ping? What do you mean?
Like
pin you.
Pin
yes, you are pinned. Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay, that's now the view is just the way, so I have you and me here.
Okay, all right. My apologies. Yeah. But anyway, okay, back to where we were. Can you tell us more then about what this transition that happened to you in early menopause, and what has happened in this time, and now what's been blooming out of it?
Yeah. So yes, with the menopause, which I don't know, now I don't consider it so early anymore. I was 44, about to become 45, to turn 45. That's 3.5 years ago. And as I said, I stopped in Brazil. And then I was on my way to Asia to do some work in Bhutan and do some work. So, can you hear?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yes.
And the whole world started stopping, and somehow the spirit dropped me in Bali. I had no plans to come to Bali in the 2020. So I ended up in Bali. I broke up my marriage. And as very common in menopause, we have a lot happens. And I was so emotional. There was so much anger and frustration and so much coming up, because it's the time that, okay, everything that I suppressed until now, it's coming up, and it's time to really let them move on. So not easy for the man, not easy for the relationship, but extremely important. If we are willing to look at it and go and do the work, it's a gift. It's just a gift. Yeah, so much change, so much downloads, and yeah, it's like an awakening time.
Ah,
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
so empowering, I think, for so many of us to hear, because the usual message around menopause are medicalized and negative. And this is, well, now you're having all of this opening.
No, it was just a gift. It's pure bliss, it's gift. Of course, we have all the symptoms that comes along, and gave me so much opportunity to go deep on myself, research more, and then I became super expert in the herbs and supplements and lifestyle. Of course, I already had a cultivation of very healthy lifestyle, although I was in a burnout.
Uh-huh.
But for yeah, I think the lifestyle I cultivated 30 years doing yoga and eating healthy and cleansing and meditation, all what is necessary to support the transition, right? And of course, a lot of lonely time, rites of passage, is to really integrate the experience. And instead of pushing away what was very important and clear, whatever symptoms and things that was arising that I didn't want to face, or I didn't want to go there, it just would get worse.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So yeah. And the lesson was everything that is here is to be addressed, right? It's
Yeah.
arising because it has been suppressed. It always
Right.
been here. Nothing's new. It's just as you address, there is transformation there.
Mm-hmm.
So what I can say is that it was major transformation, emotional level, and the physical level, and the psychological level, spiritually speaking.
Wow.
It was massive transformation. I'm definitely not the person I was 3 years ago. And so
Wow.
the woman that arose from that inner autumn is like, I feel so in my power and clarity, and
Wow.
it's so beautiful,
That's
yeah. And it's like, okay, yes, my skin will change, and it's changing, and it's like, of course, but the the clarity I have and the self-acceptance of something more magical and more powerful than that, than just aging. So for me, aging now is it's really beautiful. And of course, I super take care of my body and
Mhm.
and this body that is carrying me, because it's very is the only one I have in this lifetime, in this transition, this passage, right?
Yeah.
But also taught me a lot of the values I have, and not be attached to what is impermanent, and it showed so much, so
Yeah.
clear, as like what was a possibility is
Yeah.
just it's just happening, and it happens fast.
Wow.
you know it happens so fast.
Really? So, can you pinpoint a few things that you feel are completely different from 3 years ago? Or is it hard to say? It's a very diffuse. Are there
Well,
some specifics?
for example, sexuality, yeah? In the first year of the perimenopause, I completely lost all my libido. I was not interested in sex anymore. I had a lot of the very common symptoms of the dropping of the estrogen and progesterone, related to my yoni and my sexuality, right? And then, of course, taking care of it, loving it more, getting more close to it. I understood that I was carrying suppressed so many traumas that has not been addressed in the previous
Ah,
time, because there was much more, for example, a pattern of how to perform or how to make love or how to have sex. And then you come into that phase, which what was my teaching was like, there is no, it's not that I was faking before, but there was something deeper that has been touched. And
Wow.
yeah, so my sexual relationship, my relationship with my sexuality really changed. Really
Wow.
changed. Yeah, as it became much more sensitive and much more feeling and much more deep connected to what is there, that's what I
Oh.
feel is one of the very big shift. But
Uh-huh.
it took a lot of clarity and trust that, okay, that's not the end, that's just the beginning of something new, that's something much more juicy and much more real and much more connected, right? I came back
Wow.
together with my partner, by the
Uh-huh.
way, a
Oh, your
year later.
husband. You mean your
My
husband? You
partner.
came back to him?
Yeah, we are together.
Wow.
We are together and we are thriving together. He's 53.
Uh-huh.
He also, and was very interesting because he also had his own menopause, like
Ah.
his andropause, which was also very big shifts for him. And we were together and in everything, although we were not together physically,
Uh-huh.
is a transformation for knowing that as well, that it's not only the woman, but the man, they also go through transformation when we have a partner which has kind of the same age and the same phase. We can go through that phase together,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
I'm
So,
just
and then,
reflect. Oh, sorry, go on.
sorry, go on, please.
Well,
Talk.
I'm just thinking about like traditional knowledge in the Indian tradition, the Vaidika tradition. We have the 4 stages of life there. Your brahmachari stage, your a lot of time of studying and working on yourself more, you could say. Then you have your grihastha stage, which is when we are really out in the world. You might be having your raising your family, or you're really contributing through your teaching and business. And then your vanaprastha, your kind of next stage of be retirement, or where you're recommended to go more into your spiritual studies. So it is like a natural, it just shows it's natural both for men and women to have like a stepping a shift. For women there's the physical sign with menopause, and for men it's maybe not so much for that physical sign, right, but it's equally there.
Yeah, exactly. It's huge. I've been very close to my partner now, his process, and it's so big for them as well. But as the word, we didn't talk much about menopause before, because menopause was something like even the word menopause was something scary, you know. Still, when I talk to friends and other sisters, for so many of the women, they don't even want to hear the word menopause.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, for them it's like the image of the life stopped here, the life
Yeah.
finished. And I just want to tell all of you who is watching this video now, it's just starting even better, more juicy, more connected, more clear. There is so much creativity. It feels like everything that my soul could not do before, it's expressed.
Wow.
It's so much.
Wow.
It's at least that is my experience, right? Of course it's not going to be for all of us, but for me it was like, okay, I still came to Bali, taught 2 years of online trainings because we were in the pandemic, and
Uh-huh.
that, like, okay, this is a big calling. I started my book, so I'm almost finishing a book. I'm going to publish a book on my
Wow.
system. Yeah, it's about to finish. So with editing now, and I guess by the end of this year, I hope the book is published. So I leave my legacy of the system that I put together in fascia, trauma, yoga, right? Body work.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but anyway, and then after this whole 2 years, really with a big online presence, I felt like something had a closure, had a
Uh-huh.
closure. Yeah, yeah. And then was another, again, a need for another time inwards again,
Uh-huh.
right? I left a little bit the whole social media and everything because I started having a heavy relationship again with this,
Okay.
with the whole online situation, right? Was not making me joyous anymore. So I took a break. I entered myself in a deep rite of passage. I left. I was in silence. I did a very deep work alone on myself. And when I came back and my clothing brand was born.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us more about that part of the journey of this being inside. Were you ever anxious when you were in that silence that, oh, what if I don't make anything again? What if I just am like this the whole time? Or were you trusting that? And then, yeah, how has this come out?
I don't think in that moment when I really chose to go to this rite of passage because uh, my private life, it was happening so much already that was getting taken from me, you know, like life was really, spirit was really taking everything that was possibly I was still holding on. Finances, wrong investments, and
Yeah.
houses and everything, jewelry, like beautiful old golden necks, and like, yeah, it was taking, spirit was very clear, was very clear. I had no doubt. It started taking all the material stuff. Yeah. And
Mhm.
got me pretty quite naked just before I went to this rite of passage.
Wow.
And yeah, I was confused. I don't want to do this anymore in that way. I
Huh?
know I have a mission here in this lifetime that I was going to be a healer. I'm always going to be a light worker because this
Yeah.
is what my soul came here to do. It's
Uh-huh.
not that I'm living, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was all like completely, I cannot do this anymore. This way is not working anymore. I don't want to do anything from pressure, but from out of pleasure, out of,
Uh-huh.
joy and grace, and feeling connected to my yoni and say, yes, I want to share this. I want to come here. It's like, that's all
Yeah.
what my prayers was. And was not even to find what is the next step. It was just like my prayers was like, Spirit, help me to integrate what is here,
Beautiful.
because it
Mm-hmm.
was so much to integrate, to ground into this body.
Yeah.
And I was like, where I'm still resisting, and it's like you were almost like in the bottom of the well, and you are still holding this rope that is breaking, but we are still holding the last
Yeah.
rope. I think, yeah. So until like everything broke and I was there. So I felt, if I have an image, I felt I was really at the very bottom of the well.
Whoa.
And yeah, I laugh sometimes. I felt like I was like that very smashed frog on the ground.
Yeah.
But sometimes we need to be that smashed frog on the ground, because there is no hope.
Wow.
I feel like sometimes we have even to lose the hope because the
Uh-huh.
hope is something that is still holding us.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Right.
were totally emptied out, became a vacuum.
Exactly. Exactly. So yes, and from that space, I came much more stronger back home, got a much more simple life, got a really simple lifestyle, very simple, got it completely almost away from the social media because it was not making sense anymore.
Uh-huh.
And I started making a few pieces of clothes by hand and everything very magical, very magical. I started having dreams in the middle of the night. I would wake up and having that design and knowing exactly what it was supposed to be. And the
Wow.
clothing line came as a medicine ceremonial clothing line. It's not clothes that you just want to buy to go to a party or is really ceremonial medicine clothes. And that's what spirit wanted for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so interesting to go to that. And
Yeah.
and then have you been stitching, making them, or you've been finding people, working with people who can make your designs?
I have a tailor. I have
Uh-huh.
a tailor who comes together with me. And because the clothes are made out of natural fabrics
Mm-hmm.
and linen and cotton, but on each piece there is a hand woven detail. It's all made with pieces of hand woven fabrics from around Indonesia, the tenun ikat, right? From very magical islands in Indonesia. So I chose 3 villages which I work with, which is very far from Bali. And actually those pieces, they have a story behind. It's the story of the village. Each time that they were weaving each of the symbols, each of the patterns, they were weaving a dreaming time, right? They were weaving a
Uh-huh.
song, they were singing together, they were gathering together to weave. And why they were weaving birds or why they were weaving hands and fists. And so I started getting very intrigued by the story behind those fabrics because the fabrics was
Wow.
really magical. And they were already in my house because I was a collector. So
Aha.
I started making clothes because I didn't have money anymore.
Yeah.
I
There's the
had
real another
nothing.
push.
And that's just a few months ago we are talking. So I had a lot of values. I had old vintage pieces of those fabrics and which was a lot of value. And then I started putting them together and I would make 2 jackets and sell and then get an order for 3 more jackets. And that's how it was born. And people like Devi Sharada bought my whole collection. She
Wow.
was she was my first big angel and support and loving everything. And like
Wow.
each piece I was making, she was the first one to, okay, I take this one. It was so magical.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
incredible. And you
It's,
have to share. Oh, sorry, go on.
it's still very small. It's still
Yeah.
just something. It's only 4 months that I had
Okay.
Kanika. I gave birth to Kanika. Yeah.
Kanika.
Yeah.
Mm.
Kanika is the I feel she's one of the soul that I miscarried,
Ah.
and somehow she came back.
And
She
that
came
was the
back, but she
name,
never
the
left.
name came to you? You mean that was the name that came to you?
Yes, it became the name of my company. And then when I opened the company, I didn't even know I was making a brand. And then all of a sudden I was dreaming, having this conversation with this girl who really told me I never really left you.
Wow.
you know, and I feel her presence very strong in the clothes. And when the clothes becomes into business and everything that is related to it is just like pure love and pure grace.
Wow. Oh, how
Yeah.
beautiful is that to have her come back in this form?
Right?
Yeah,
Right.
really cool.
And Kanika is an Indian, in Sanskrit means the golden seed,
Gold.
gold seed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And also,
Oh,
I think in Tamil Nadu, this is how they call the little sunshine girls. Like instead of they call my sunshine, they call my Kanika.
my Kanika.
Oh, so sweet, right?
Yeah, so sweet. Wow.
I know, I know, I
Oh,
know.
no, I
Yeah.
also have a fondness for fabrics and how they're made. And so, where are those three villages?
Well, they're in Timor,
In there, Timor. Okay.
Leste. Yeah. One village very near Kupang,
Uh-huh.
one little island near Rote as well. So still like the grandmothers, they still weaving and so beautiful. And I
Uh-huh.
try to get them all the old pieces, so they're very magical. It's amazing, yeah. It's
Amazing.
far, it's a lot of work, but there is a lot of love, and people comes close to the clothes and they say, "This is not just clothes." I say,
Yeah.
"No, not just clothes. This is this is temple." So Kanika temple wear now.
Nika Templeware. Okay.
Temple wear. You can find me in the Instagram and check it out. It's ceremonial. It's like witch clothes and like hoodies and beautiful belts and yeah,
Wow.
it's very
Awesome.
special. Very special.
Mm-hmm.
I still give menopause support. Yeah, I have so much joy, and I love when the first month that the hot flashes start going away and
Uh-huh.
women start feeling back to their power and the insomnias, whatever symptoms, just with like readjusting the herbs and the connections and yeah, it's really a beautiful process. I wanna let you guys know that I'm doing menopause support still and yes, with so much joy. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, then, given that, since I think we're getting close to our time, then continuing on the menopause support, can you tell our audience about the other things that you're offering right now
Yeah, right now I'm
and how
offering
they can get in touch with you?
okay. My online training is my 200-hour online program is there. Is no longer a live program, but it's pre-recorded evergreens, so they can buy and they always gonna have access to the program, and they still have one session with me at the end of the program. It's precious. It's really special. What is there? Because it's the whole of my life studies and practices on fascia trauma, dynamic yoga, everything, mindfulness, everything that I cultivated throughout the 30 years of practice and teachings, I put in this program. So it's all online. It became my legacy. I
Uh-huh.
don't advertise much. I don't know why, but it's there and it's easy to start through the modules. And yeah, it's an opportunity to still have my teachings. Yeah. I'm doing trauma healing sessions online and in person. It's somatic experiencing. It's a very powerful, effective method of trauma healing and integration. So I don't even talk anymore about trauma release, but
Okay.
is a deep healing process, which is not only coming here and releasing trauma and then being the void without really having support to integrate the experience, right? So I
Yeah.
do experience sessions online and in person, and womb healing as well. I come from having two C-sections and now having kids and being a myofascial therapist. So I do a lot of C-section work and just womb clearing and healing work.
Uh-huh.
And the big one now, I feel a lot of women has been suffering from menopause, so I've been giving support. And it's a process we can do online. We book few sessions and we go through a process to take care of the physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, those are all really beautiful offerings, and you're so wonderful and open to talk to. So I think anybody who works with you would really feel very empowered and supported and get so much insight.
Thank you, Monali, for your
Yeah,
time, for your
thank
grace.
you.
So
And
beautiful.
I want beautiful. And audience and Beta, I also want to apologize in case in the beginning half I didn't correctly do the video setup. So I don't know if it'll just be me in the video, but at least from the second half, we'll have you in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all in the divine order. It's perfect the way it
All
is,
in
right?
order.
All
That's
is in
right.
order. And all is perfect. This is what we're talking about. Trust.
Yes.
And yeah, I think on the post of this video, my website and my information will be there, right? My
Yeah.
Instagram website. Yeah, amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so, so much for the opportunity. I'll be teaching at the Navaratri Festival as well very soon. Yeah, great.
Excellent. Thank you so much. This was such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Same as well.
Okay.
Bye,
Mwah.
Devi.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
babe. See you.
See you. Oh.